We're here at the Chamber office. We've had a lot of our members asking about the Paycheck Protection Program and other loans that are out there for our business community. So we've invited Brad Lowry, Market President and Senior Lender for Pilgrims Bank here in Mount Pleasant, to join us today. Appreciate it, Brad.
No problem.
To answer a few questions about the program. First, Brad, kind of give us an overview of the payment or the Paycheck Protection Program and how it got created, I guess.
Sure. At the end of March, when the U.S. Congress passed the CARES bill and President Trump signed that into existence, the SBA quickly became the funneling agent for these funds, and they created two programs really, but the one that seems to be most attractive is the Paycheck Protection Program, PPP, as you'll probably hear me refer to it. And it's attractive because there's a forgiveness feature to the debt.
Sure.
In essence, what the government's trying to do is help small businesses, and small business in their terms is 500 employees or less.
Okay.
So they're trying to encourage those companies and give them the ability to keep their employees hired.
Okay.
If they've already had layoffs, they encourage them to rehire and get back to a payroll status and amount where they were prior to the economic downturn. So effectively it's a 2-month program.
Okay.
Where they're supposed to rehire and then validate the fact that they've put these monies that they've received through the loan back into the payroll of their company. They can spend the money in other ways. They can pay utility bills.
Okay.
They can pay rent if they're in a rent situation. And then they can pay the mortgage interest on any obligations, on a debt obligation. So the factor on what you apply for is strictly based on payroll.
Okay.
There's a 12-month average, particularly on existing companies, of what they spend in 2019.
Brad, a lot of people are asking us how much of a loan can these businesses or individual contractors receive?
Sure. Through the Paycheck Protection Program, they've set a limit of $10 million.
Okay.
Very few companies in our part of the world are going to be even near that based on their payroll, but that is the cap. The formula for that is really you're taking your 2009. What they want you to do is take your 2019 payroll data, come up with your monthly average,
okay,
and then the loan amount is actually 2.5 times that monthly average. There's some gray area on if you're a self-employed contractor, things like that. What do you really use when you don't have a payroll? We're actually still waiting on a little bit of guidance on that. And people are getting anxious because the money's going to run out. That's what they said. I don't quite believe that. So if you're a self-employed contractor or just don't have a large payroll other than yourself, I would say you might still just wait a few days. We're getting guidance every day.
Okay.
Saturday, my staff was working, and we got guidance during the day on Saturday that even changed some of our processes. So, but the normal business that has a payroll, a staff, 2.5 times their monthly payroll is what they can use.
Okay. Now we talked about this program. It can be forgiven, almost like a grant program. How do businesses ensure that they go through the steps correctly to make sure it is forgiven at the end of the day?
Sure. What I would caution most businesses on today, even as of today, the SBA has not issued the final guidance on how the forgiveness is going to play out.
Okay.
So they do want the money out the door. They want businesses to get the funds and get help, but the actual final guidance on the forgiveness piece of this is not set in stone.
Right.
So I would caution everybody on that. And to answer your question, they have to spend the money. Again, it's based on payroll as far as the loan amount, but they have to spend the money on payroll. Like 75% of the funds need to be used on payroll, and then they also can pay utility bills. They can pay rent if they're in a lease situation, and then they can pay mortgage interest on the debt obligations. It doesn't go to the principal, it's just the interest. So if they do those things, if they follow the general guidelines, I think once we get the final forgiveness detail, I think they'll be fine. But if you're not a good record keeper, you got to learn pretty quick. Keep up with everything you're doing over the next 8 weeks. It's an 8-week program from the day you get your money.
Okay.
So you wanna get the folks rehired or maintain your employment. And then, again, you've got a little bit extra buffer to pay utilities and lease payments, but, just be cautious, don't use it just as an overall working capital loan to go buy another business or take a vacation. That will not be forgiven, and you will have to repay the debt yourself.
Perfect, that makes a lot of sense. How does a business go about starting to apply for this program? Should they contact their lender first, or should they go to the SBA website, or what are some of the resources out there, or the first steps businesses need to take?
Sure. The PPP program, there's a ton of data on the SBA website, sba.gov. You can go there to look at, again, there's 2 loan programs. The PPP information is there. There's another one we'll probably mention and talk about in just a minute, the Economic Injury Disaster Loan Program, EIDL, or EIDL as people are calling it. All the information on both loans are on their website. But again, for the PPP side, it's gonna ultimately direct you to your local bank.
Okay.
That loan program is funded and approved and processed through your local bank. Community banks all across the nation, the large national banks and regional banks, they're all, at this point, approved by the SBA
Good.
to process these. I know specifically in our community, again, I've talked to some of the local bankers, but I know everybody is certainly working extra hours to process these. So if you have questions, call your local bank. And if in the event you don't have a bank relationship, that's a little bit of an issue, because most of the banks have such a volume of application from their own customers. They're certainly getting a priority.
Yeah.
So if you don't have a bank relationship, I would caution you to do a little bit of research on yourself. Reach out to the banks.
Yeah.
And get information. We'll be glad to talk to you, but again, at this point, I can speak for our bank and other regional banks that we've talked to. They are prioritizing their customers first. And if the money doesn't run out, which I believe it won't, we'll be able to take on new customers down the road.
Excellent.
To get them in the door and get some help.
Good. Well, as people start reaching out to their bankers and their lenders, what questions should they be asking, or what questions are you seeing most common as businesses talk to you?
Question is, how do I get my money?
Yeah.
I mean, it's just, the media has done a fair job, but again, they just present it as free money.
Yeah.
And if anybody can get free money, let's go do it, and let's get it quick. Initially it was, we're gonna run out, so be first come, first serve.
Right.
We kinda saw that. I think there've been so many questions on the bank side. You've seen even the large national banks kinda holding back, waiting on some further guidance on, the liability and things like that of being a part of this program from a bank side.
Yeah.
The money hasn't run out. There was even talk this morning about, more money being issued. Congress will act on that. Certainly it'll be, I don't feel like anybody will be left on the sidelines on this deal. I really
Good.
think the money will be there.
Good. That's good to hear. You touched on it earlier, the economic injury disaster loans. Maybe speak about that or other programs or loans out there that small businesses might want to look into that have been impacted by COVID-19.
Sure. I think, from an SBA perspective, SBA has been around forever, and kudos to Tim Wilson, our local guy. I know he's been
amazing.
swamped, Small Business Development Center, so Tim, if you see this, thank you for what you've done. The regional office in Dallas, everybody's just been covered up, and rightfully so. But the SBA programs have always been out there. The 7A program that's been out there, there's an SBA 504 program. Again, not every bank participates in those, but again, those are good programs that have always existed. I would say today, from what we've been told, the SBA as a whole is just focused on these PPP loan programs. Okay. There's been so many applications for that.
Yes.
That they're just gonna be consumed with that for a while. Now, the other program that you mentioned, the Economic Injury Disaster Loan, the EIDL loan, now's a good time to kind of show the difference between the two. The EIDL loan came out basically at the same time, to my understanding, and it is a direct loan through the SBA.
Okay.
You don't go to your local bank for that. Now, there's no forgiveness feature to that.
Okay.
To the EIDL loan. There's a $2 million max as far as what you can apply for. It's more of a standard SBA underwriting procedure. It has
Okay.
collateral. It has personal guarantees from the owner and things like that. Now, real small loans, they'll probably waive some of that kind of thing, but businesses can apply directly with the SBA for that type of disaster loan program. It's a 30-year repayment.
Okay.
It's still a cheap rate. I think it's 3.75%.
Oh, nice.
So it's still very affordable. Again, I've got questions on it just because I've been so focused on the PPP. Sure. You know, what can you really apply for? The funds aren't restricted on payroll.
Okay.
So things like that versus the Paycheck Protection Program is strictly more of a payroll, funding source.
Yes.
And again, the good news, the comparison, again, the two, there's a forgiveness feature on the Paycheck Program if it's treated correctly.
Right.
It's a 1% rate, it's unsecured, and there's no personal guarantees by the owners. So there's so many good things about it,
Yes.
which is why people are going that direction. But again, there is this other source of funding over here that the SBA program is set up to do.
It's nice to have options
Right.
at a time like this when
Right.
people are just kind of scrambling. On that, is there any other advice you'd give our small business owners in our community, or anything else you would recommend they look into as they're dealing with this unprecedented economic disaster?
Oh, great question. Find whatever sources are out there. And again, if there's local programs through the city or county, maybe even the chamber comes up with a great idea, contact those guys who can potentially offer some assistance. And again, when in times like this, as a business owner, you start looking at your balance sheet and your expenses. Again, you wanna maintain where you've been for your company, but you also want to continue to take care of the families that you're employing.
Yep.
And so you've got to tighten the screws and really look under every rock and see what you can do to help. And again, if you reach out to every facet of what you're doing, again, I don't know what all the programs are that are out there, but if the PPP program is where you need to be, again, I call the bank that you're familiar with. If not, give me a call at Pilgrim Bank, and we'll see what we can do to at least answer questions and direct you to the right source.
For sure, I think that's a good point. We have amazing banks in our community. I think we're very lucky to have people with amazing expertise. Reach out to your local lender, your local banker. Reach out to the chamber, please. We have information and resources that we can provide our business community on a local, state, and federal level. We're all in this together as a community, and I think that's important for people to understand, is that there are resources, information out there. People have been through this. There's experts that can help your business out, and we're all here to help each other to create a level of normalcy and get back to what we know and what we do here in Mount Pleasant as soon as we can. So Brad, thank you for being here. Call Brad if you have any questions, or any of your bank or any of our local lenders. They can answer your questions. Our website at the Chamber has lots of information and resources, and Tim Wilson at the SBDC is an amazing resource, and we appreciate you for being here.
No problem.
Thanks, Brad.